In the late 19th century, the world was a symphony of progress. Factory engines roared, trains thundered across continents, and electricity was starting to push back the night. Humanity seemed to be on the verge of conquering everything, except for the sky. The dream of flight was still a fantasy, a privilege reserved for birds. Most people simply scoffed at the idea. If humans were meant to fly, they'd say, we would have been born with wings. But in a small bicycle shop in Dayton, Ohio, two brothers were quietly rewriting the rules of what was possible. Wilbur and Orville Wright weren't famous scientists or wealthy inventors backed by powerful investors. They were just two mechanics, their hands often stained with grease, their days spent fixing bicycles. Yet, within the clatter of gears and chains, their minds were soaring far beyond the shop floor. They were building a new future. One windy afternoon, Wilbur stood outside, his eyes fixed on a buzzard circling effortlessly overhead. "Orv, look at that," he said, his voice filled with fascination. "See how it twists the tips of its wings? It's not just flapping harder. It's changing its shape to balance itself." Orville squinted at the sky. "You're right," he replied. "It's not just about lift. It's about control." That single observation became their guiding star. They realized everyone else was obsessed with simply getting off the ground. But the real secret, the key that would unlock the sky, wasn't just flight, it was control. This idea sent them down a new path. They started by building small kites, then progressed to larger gliders. They took their creations to the windy beaches of North Carolina, running into the wind, feeling their machines strain against the air. There were countless failures. Gliders crashed into the sand, splintering wood and tearing fabric. Their hands were blistered, their bodies sore and exhausted. But with every crash, they didn't see defeat. They saw data. Once, after a particularly rough landing, Orville brushed the sand from his clothes, the broken glider lying in a heap nearby. "Well, that was a terrible landing," he said, but Wilbur was almost smiling. "Yes, it was," he agreed. "But did you feel it? For a moment, we had it. We had control. The wing warping worked. The idea is sound. It's the structure that failed," Orville simply nodded. "Then we'll make it stronger." With every broken frame and ripped wing, their understanding of aerodynamics grew deeper. They were learning to speak the language of the wind, translating the elegant movements of birds into the precise mechanics of a machine. By 1903, they had mastered gliding. They could steer their craft, commanding it in the air with remarkable skill. But one crucial piece was still missing: power. To truly fly, they needed an engine. It had to be powerful enough to provide thrust, yet light enough not to weigh their delicate craft down. They approached automobile companies, hoping for a solution, but the experts all gave the same answer: impossible. An engine that light and that powerful simply couldn't be built. So, the Wright brothers did what they had always done when the world told them something couldn't be done. They decided to do it themselves. Working alongside their brilliant mechanic, Charlie Taylor, they designed and built their own engine right there in the bicycle shop. It was a humble, 4-cylinder, 12-horsepower creation. It wasn't pretty, and it certainly wasn't powerful by today's standards, but it was theirs, and it was just enough. They constructed a strange and fragile-looking machine from spruce wood and muslin fabric. It had 2 wings, stacked one above the other, and 2 propellers designed to spin in opposite directions. They called it the Flyer. To an outsider, it looked like it would collapse in a strong breeze. But every wire on that machine carried a dream. Every bolt held 4 years of relentless struggle, unwavering hope, and a deep-seated belief in their vision. Then came the morning of December 17, 1903. The air at Kitty Hawk was bitterly cold, and a fierce wind howled across the sand dunes. Only 5 local men stood watching from a distance, their faces a mixture of curiosity and doubt. It felt as if nature itself was resisting, unsure if it was ready to let humanity leave the ground. Wilbur and Orville stood by their creation, a quiet intensity in the air. "Ready?" Wilbur asked. "Ready," Orville replied. He lay flat on his stomach on the lower wing, his hands gripping the controls. His heart pounded in his chest. "If I crash," he said quietly, "tell people we tried." Wilbur looked at him, his gaze steady and reassuring. "You won't crash," he said. "Remember what we learned. Don't fight the wind. Use it." Wilbur ran alongside, steadying the wing as the flyer began to move down its short wooden launch rail. The wind screamed against the fabric. For a tense moment, it seemed the machine would simply be torn apart. And then, it happened. The flyer lifted. It rose from the rail, breaking free from the earth. For the first time in all of human history, a powered, heavier-than-air machine, carrying a man, rose into the air under its own power and was steered by that man. It wobbled and shook, but it did not fall. For 12 incredible seconds, Orville Wright was no longer bound by gravity. He was flying. The flight covered only 120 feet. It lasted just 12 seconds. But in those 12 seconds, the entire concept of impossible was shattered forever. Orville brought the flyer down gently onto the sand, his mind reeling, his eyes wide with a mixture of shock and triumph. Wilbur ran toward him, a sound escaping his lips that was half laughter, half gasp. "You flew," he shouted against the wind. "You actually flew." There was no cheering crowd, no grand ceremony. Just two brothers, standing together in the cold, staring at the machine that had just redrawn the boundaries of the human world. The news trickled out slowly, and at first, many refused to believe it. But history can't be denied. The sky was no longer the limit. Every flight we take today, every global connection made possible by air travel, traces its lineage back to those 12 seconds on a cold beach. Their story began with two bicycle mechanics. No vast fortune, no formal degrees, no special privileges. All they had was a shared dream, an unquenchable curiosity, and the courage to fail over and over again. They didn't just build an airplane. They proved something far more profound, that our limits are often just opinions, repeated so often they start to sound like facts. Every failure they endured was not a roadblock, but a signpost, pointing them in the right direction. Every doubt from the outside world only served to strengthen their resolve. Their legacy reminds us that monumental change doesn't come from a flash of perfect genius. It comes from perseverance. It shows us that when the entire world is convinced something is impossible, that is often the exact moment history is waiting for someone brave enough to try. Thank you so much for watching. If this story inspired you, please consider liking this video and subscribing for more stories of human ingenuity. We'll see you in the next one.